I decided to quit my nursing job, me having fun in the summer before I shipped off my barrels, went to a Brazilian night out, handing in my badge to my manager on my last day, spending time with my friends at church and my Rojo friends. Then this is my first time me and my mom went out to eat for a birthday back in Jamaica after so many years. I lived in the UK for 18 years. Oh, this is the best memory ever. I went to the beach. I think it was in somewhere in St. Mary or St. Thomas. And I'm just washing my feet in the lovely sea salt that happens to be in Jamaica. The sun is kissing my skin. My feet and toes are happy. Like, the beach is so lovely. The scenery is so beautiful. The nature. These are the only vibes that you can get in Jamaica. You can't get them nowhere else. Sure, if you're from a Caribbean island, you can get these vibes, but definitely not in cold England, where the pebbles are black and the sand is dirty and the water is green. But here, the water was blue. The waves were just perfect. The sun was like golden. My toes were happy. My skin was happy. And this is why I love Jamaica, because I get the vitamin D, I get the water, I get the fresh fruits, and I'm enjoying life. I barely get sick out here. Like, I can get up in the morning, I could go out and do my walk, and it's just airy. It's just a laid back lifestyle, and that is one of the reasons why I left the UK. So this is me on my new season. I've gone back to film and television production, content creation. That's why I did my first degree in it. I don't know why I didn't pursue it and went into nursing. Only God knows. But one thing, God doesn't make mistake, and he has aligned me back to my purpose, and I have a passion for film and television, and I can't wait to get my foot into the industry. Hello everybody, welcome back to Fran K's Mouthpiece. It's your girl Fran in the his house, and today do we have some content for you. Okay, so this is a new season, new chapter in my life, and we're going to talk about something about more personal. So why did I leave the NHS? Okay, let's go to a backstory, right? We're just going to get into it, guys. We're just going to get into it. Excuse me for the lipstick. By the way, if you want to know the actual, this is a lip gloss, not a lipstick. So it's Christmas, Merry Christmas. But if you see this might be tomorrow, Boxing Day, or I don't know, it might be the day after Boxing Day. It might be the 27th. But either which way, you guys are going to see it before the 30th. Okay, so this is a MAC. It's quite old. I don't know if you can see it. Right, what is the name of it? MAC lip gloss. It doesn't say the name, but I got it for Christmas, like about a couple of years back, and I decided to wear it. Why not? Because it was around Christmas that I got it. Okay, so the topic of this drumroll story is, why did I leave the NHS? So backstory, I used to, and sorry if you hear a buzzing sound in the back, it will be my fan. So I used to work for the NHS for like roughly 6 years or more. I would say actually more, because at one point I was a healthcare assistant, and then I became a registered nurse, and I was a registered nurse for 6 whole years within the NHS. My first year, I graduated Middlesex University in 2017. Yep. My first year, I worked on a medical assessment unit. For those of you who live in another country, if you're not sure what the NHS is, so the NHS, for like the Jamaican viewers and American viewers, is a national health service in England, and literally what it is the public health of England. It provides hospitals, clinics. It's just, and as it said, national health service, and it employs like a good couple 100,000. It's one of the biggest employers in England. It employs a lot of people, and it runs hospitals, clinics, emergency units. It runs trust, right? It's basically run by the government, and it's operated by the government, and it's public. It's a public sector. It's not private. As if most of you guys don't know, taxpayers in England pay money and they get free healthcare. So some people do private for the more rich people who don't want to depend on the public system. But I used to be one of the public health nurses who worked in our public hospital. For my first year after I graduated nursing, I worked in a hospital wing or ward, as some would say in England, where I was a medical assessment unit nurse, meaning I dealt with patients who had sepsis, who had DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. I dealt with patients who came in with heart problems like heart attacks, kidney failure, drug overdose. There were erratic mental health patients, people, just different things. People had stomach issues, they were vomiting, diarrhea and vomiting, and they couldn't understand gastric problems, all of these things. Because what the unit was basically everyone from A&E who they weren't sure, they still were investigating, they would come to that area for 72 hours, right? Then I moved into renal and I became a dialysis nurse, and I did hemodialysis. There's different type of dialysis, but I did the one with the blood and the machine. So all the blood, dirty blood, goes to the machine. It's cleaned, because usually people who do this procedure have a kidney that does not work. And that was my role. And I then went on to King's College University and I did a course, right? So I did 6 years in the NHS. I did a course to become a more specialist nurse, and basically that course was like a leadership course. So when I finished, I would be more specialized in the field of hemodialysis, not only hemodialysis but dialysis, because there's different type of dialysis, so that I could be CNS, would you say, like, what is that now called again? But it's like a diabetic nurse specialist. So that was basically what my plan was to, and I was meant to climb up and up and up, and then God said, stop, I have a different plan for you, and I'm gonna reroute you to that plan. So let's get to why I was rerouted. So now you know the backstory of how I served 6 years. Let's go a bit further. Let's time machine a bit back. So before I decided to do nursing, I went to Royal Holloway, University of London. Shout out to my Roho peeps, pop. And sorry for the gun fingers, no, I'm not ghetto. But literally, I studied film and television production at the Royal Holloway, University of London for 3 years, and I graduated in 2010 when there was a recession. And during this recession, I found it difficult to find a job. There was many other reasons why I found one. The course that we did, now this was the olden day, this is not like new now where they give so many opportunities to university students, right? Back then I felt they didn't prepare us as much. Like, some of my colleagues have gone on into film and television and a lot haven't, right? But it was a dog-eat-dog world. Like, I would apply for jobs and they said, oh, sorry, we're looking for people with experience. Or they would look for like unpaid internships. I was like, but I need to pay my bills. Basically, so when I left uni, I struggled to find anything because everywhere was asking for people with experience, and I didn't really have experience, or I didn't even know about the BBC internships, the ITV internships. I didn't know about these, right? Because the school at the time didn't really explain it. They only started at the last year to talk about CVs, talk about internships, and I'm thinking this should have been told to us the first year of uni. They should have said, guys, work on your own projects, save them, start building. See, they should have had the talk at the first year of uni instead of the last year of uni when you're leaving, because by then it's too late. And I implore any uni out there to make sure you talk to your students about how to get a job in the first year of uni, not the third. Anyway, so when I left, and then there was many other issues that was going on in my life at the time. Like, I wasn't really speaking to my dad at the time. We had fallen out. So I was staying with a family member at the time's house. So there's that, and that falling out affected me during the 3 years of university. It affected my schoolwork. I had to get like a part-time job, and it's not like just 20 hours. I was doing ridiculous amounts of hours, probably like 30 hours, like every day after school I was at working, right, every single day, to try and compensate for the loan I got a loan, but it wasn't a lot because my parents at the time made a lot. Well, my stepmom and my dad, they made a lot of money. So to compensate for that, I had to work. And so my grades wasn't as great. Another reason why my grade wasn't as great, I didn't get a high score. I didn't get like a third, but I got a 2. I should have really gotten a 2-1 or first. That would have increased my chances, but I didn't. So that compiled with a low grade, the fact that I was so stressed out by the end of university, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I didn't even care. Like, I was getting rejected. I was like, okay, I'm not going to do film and television. I'm going to take my degree and do something else, because we were always told that it's just a degree, you can use it to springboard to do other things. So that is what I did. I literally went about applying to different companies. I went into to try for recruiting, I tried for admin, I tried for like so many other companies. In the end, I just started working retail jobs. I did retail management jobs, like, supervisor, team leader, and I didn't mind retail, but I was like, okay, I'm 28, 27. No, at the time I was like I think I was like about 21, 22, 23, and all my friends were going off and they were getting jobs that were offering them 21,000, 22,000, 25 in total. And I'm like, I just worked for a retail company, making like $8-9 an hour. It was not a lot of money, and that really was scaring me. I was like, where's my future going? Am I gonna just work my way up in retail? This is not what I'm passionate about. This is not is this going to be the end goal for me? I was slowly paying off student debt, but I wasn't able to actually really pay off my student loan. So I started worrying. And then at this time, I didn't know Jesus like that. That's another thing. When I was in my university, I didn't know Jesus. I think I barely knew how to pray. I knew I knew God existed. I know Jesus. I used to go to church, but I didn't have a relationship with him. I wasn't born again. I wasn't baptized. So I think that made my university even harder, because God would have blessed me and surely would have helped me out if I had seeked him, but I didn't. And I was doing all sorts of nefarious activities. So I was doing things that was against God's will. So I was being disobedient. I wasn't obedient. I wasn't in alignment with God. And basically all these different things. So it made my struggle at uni harder. It made my struggle after uni harder. And then after around the age of 21, 22, I gave my life to Christ. And then things started turning around. Now, I started thinking, okay, what career? Maybe I'll go back to uni. So I had a lot of family who were in nursing. I had like a couple of aunts who were nurses, and it's throughout our history. Even my grandma is like, I hope she doesn't watch this, she might get mad, but her name is Florence Nightingale. So tell me if that doesn't mean something. So I didn't actually pray and said, God, is this for you? Is this what you want for me? But I went into it. I did like a course at Lewisham College, which allowed me to go into nursing, right? I worked as I volunteered as a ward visitor at King's College Hospital. So that gave me the experience to get into nursing school. And I did that Lesoko course, and it helped me to refresh my brain when it came to the sciences, because I didn't really study sciences that much in A-level. So I did the biology, the chemistry, all of these sciences. Then I also did the maths. It helped me improve my maths. I got into several nursing universities, and in the end I went to Middlesex University. Did my 3 years, graduated, and then fast forward, we get back to the 6 years. Now, after I did my first year, okay, let's talk about the first year of uni. First year as a graduate nurse and as a baby. YouTubers, let's just say your girl was hazed, you would have thought I was joining a fraternity. Because them, when they say nurses eat their young, they're not lying. Just, like, I literally, the first year was the makings of me. You don't learn nothing really when you're in nursing university, right? You don't learn anything, even those placements you do, because we do placements in England, right? So in your last year you do a management placements. You do like other placements over the years, like 2 weeks here, 4 weeks there, but management placement was 3 months in a specific unit. So in a ward or wherever you were going to be, you're going to be there for 3 months, and in the end what they would do is start handing patients over to you. By the end of the placement you would maybe have 4 or 5 patients that you would be looking on by yourself, but yes, you would be supervised. So you would have your mentor in the background watching you, and like if you really need help they would jump in, but most times they were just there to like oversee you, right? So that's what I did, right? And I thought, yeah, it was gonna be cool. Okay, here's the number one mistake that I made, and I would advise people not to do this. Say in your final year, like your 3-year placement, I worked on a kidney ward in my hospital, right? And I love the staff there, I love the matron, the ward managers. They wanted me to stay, they were begging me, but me, I fast up myself because I wanted to work in A&E and fast pace and be like ER and all of those people. So I went to acute medical assessment unit to try and get a job there, then to go in A&E. And that was a big no-no. I should have stayed. I would advise any nursing student watching this, in your final year of placement, if you enjoy the placement there and you like it, but you want to go into another thing, don't rush. Stay there because they already know you. Stay there for even 6 months to 8 months, and then transfer to the uni you want to actually work at. Because the thing is, these people that you work with for 3 months, they know you, they mentor you, they're going to like haze you less, they're going to be there for you more, they're going to support you more, you're going to get more backing. But I didn't do that. I went to a uni I never worked at, and these people didn't meet me, so I was just fresh meat to them. And when I told you, there were some supportive nurses there, don't get me wrong, because if it wasn't for them I wouldn't have survived. But then there were also nemesis there that were supposedly mentors. Now these were the old school ones, some of them, who, like, for the first day, one day I must have called someone accidentally wrong. I think I said her Josephine or something, and she had a go at me. She said, she could have said to me, baby, I don't like to be called that, sorry, it irks me, can you just call me that name? Like things like that. Things like they would pile on like 10 patients for someone who's newly qualified. They were always putting me in risky situations. If I made them, like, if it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. There was one there who was terrorizing me. He was behind me, clock, watching me, and when I made a mistake, he would terrorize, yell and shout and make me incompetent. Instead of others, they'd be like, okay, it's not a big deal, let's see where you went wrong, this is what you should do. Others would come to my aid. No, not this one. And sometimes he would make the situation worse because he wasn't doing his job, and then he would come to yell at you, and then he would pile more people on you. In the end, me and him got along. Anyway, after doing 1 year of that, of all the hazing, and I just was like starting to shut down, and like I really started to hate the job. And I was like, another thing what made me hate it was doing all these nights. I couldn't stand the nights. It was like you come at 7 in the morning, leave at like 8 at night. 8 in the morning, sorry, I couldn't do it. I'd wake up in the morning and feel like a zombie. So the nights were a killer, that's one. And they would be like, you would jump from day to night, or from night to day, and there was no respite between it, right? So the shift was wrong, the nights were wrong. I was missing so much on holidays, like Christmas holidays, friends' birthdays, other holidays. So I was always working on important holidays, and I'm like, when do I get to enjoy life, right? When do I get to enjoy life? Then the long shifts, from 12-hour shifts, I was exhausted and I was gaining weight and I was unhappy. Then because it was a high pressured ward and like you were always being pushed in because they were always understaffed. Another thing, understaffed, there were people leaving all the time. And yes, my skills were improving, but my skills were not there enough for some of the things they wanted us to do. Like one time they put me in the high dependency unit section with monitors, and even though they put me in that section and I learned certain stuff, I wasn't qualified. I hadn't done an EC monitoring course. I hadn't done a course where I learned about the monitor and what the monitor meant and what the different heart rates were saying and stuff. So it's like they kept pushing me into risky situations. Like for one time they gave me like 10 patients and it was just me, and I think it made it be like 3 months within, or maybe like 6 months. I wasn't there for a long time, and they were just always understaffed. So many things that were unsafe, and like there were instances where I didn't give the best care that I could, and instances where the patient could have almost died. So I said, you know what, leave this unit, right? Because the thing is, the support wasn't there as you thought. Like you'd get shouted at, yelled at, and you're still new, you're still a baby. The support wasn't there. Some of the senior nurses were just not as kind or as caring. Some people would leave the work on you. You know, I just was not meant for that environment. Some people stayed there and did well, and a lot left. And then I decided I was going to be one of those people. So an opportunity came up. When I was in the management for 3 months, right, before I graduated and actually became a nurse, I was in the kidney unit, as I said, and I loved it. And I never actually did dialysis. I just used to deal with patients who were prepped for kidney transplant, and the family members who possibly used to give the kidneys, or the individuals who used to give the kidneys and post kidney transplant. So that was the section that I was in. So I used to watch dialysis and wanted it, and then I prayed, and I was fasting, and God saw that I was travailing and struggling, and an opportunity came up. After a year of working, an opportunity came up, and I became a dialysis nurse. I actually did an interview. I did like the written examination, everything, and I passed it. And God worked it out that I was in the dialysis unit. And one thing I loved about it was that I didn't work on Sundays, because that's another thing. I was sometimes having to work on Sundays in the ward, and it was straining my relationship with church and with God, and I wanted to volunteer, and I wasn't getting enough. I wasn't able to go to church as much as I wanted and spend enough time with God. I was just tired, and like when you're tired, you want to go to church and get refreshed, and you weren't. So that was one thing. Sundays, you didn't work every Sunday because it was a clinic, and they were open from Monday to Saturday, but Sundays they weren't. No. And then another thing, you never did night shifts, you did twilight. So the latest you would finish would be 12:30 or 1, and then a taxi would take you home, and you'd be home by 2 o'clock the latest, and you're in your bed. 2 o'clock at night, you're in the bed. You have the opportunity to sleep and not be a zombie, right? So that's it. No night shift, no weekends, and no major public holidays. So Christmas Day, the unit was closed, and New Year's Day the unit was closed. So even if I had to come in New Year's Day, I didn't care. But the fact that Christmas Day it was closed, come on. And it was a unit that was a bit more flexible, like you had the opportunity to get someone to cover you much more so that you could go spend time with your friends and your family. So that's one thing I loved about it. And so I was there for a while, right? And it offered more opportunities as well to progress. And they were very strict on what would I say now, on skill set. So they wouldn't push you to do something unless you actually had the skill set, right? So when I first went there, I didn't do anything. They trained me how to needle, and it's important they train you, because the thing with them is fistulas is people's lifeline, so you couldn't mess with that, right? So I was struggling along. I even got the opportunity to progress by doing the course at King's College University, which was kind of like a progression leadership course where you learned more about dialysis. You learned about the different types of dialysis. You learned more about hemodialysis. You learned more so that and you did like a essay, you did like different things, you went to different placements to learn more. And the whole point is that when you finish, you will be more specialized in the field, have a more specialist knowledge, so you could go on to more leadership roles, you could go on higher up, you could become more a supervisor, like all these different things. So in order to get on that course, obviously I had to do an interview, I had to do an essay. So I felt like God was promoting me. But as I said, God said, and even though I was getting up there and at some point enjoying the job, my heart wasn't fully there. I'm going to be honest. My heart was not 100% there, and there was also issues going on. So some of the issues were, I still was tired because I still used to do 12-hour shifts. Even though there was 2 12 and 2 short, there were still 12-hour shifts. The pay wasn't all that great, and that's the NHS. And the pay was somewhat a little bit different, a little bit less, because I wasn't doing long hours. So like you get time and a half, or you get extra pay when you do shifts that are after 8 o'clock, right? So when you do those night shifts, it racks up and you get way more money, right? So even though I used to do from 8 till 2, it wasn't like as much as if you did from like 7 in the night to like 8 in the morning, right? You would obviously get way more money. So things like that. And so those are the things, like I was losing out a bit of pay, I was tired. And also another problem that people don't speak about was the violence and aggression. Dialysis patients can be some of the most violent patients. Why? Because the patients that I'm dealing with were chronic kidney patients. They came to the unit to have their treatment 3 to 4 times a week. And these patients were in pain. They had to come a lot. Sometimes when they finished dialysis, they were completely exhausted. They weren't able to do a lot because of their condition, feeling tired, low blood pressure. Sometimes they couldn't fly. They had heart problems. They also had mental health problems. A lot of them had like anxiety, some of them used to have mental health problems from like the fact that the toxins, your kidneys supposed to get rid of toxins, but because they didn't always come to dialysis, or they waited a long time before they started dialysis, those toxins build up and affected their brain. And added to the fact that they have to come to dialysis all the time, sometimes they have to wait a long time to get on the machine, and then issues with transport, and they're hungry, and all these different things, and they would turn into aggressive individuals. No matter, some of them you could like deal with them, you could like change the situation, you could try to put them on the machine quicker, or you could be kind to them, or you could like try to meet their needs and like explain things, and then they would calm down. But there were ones that no matter what you did, they would always come in angry and ready to fight you, as if you're the one who gave them this condition. So patients in the hospital were bad, but you usually dealt with them for a short period. So maybe like a couple of months, not even that, maybe a couple of weeks, a couple of days, because where you worked was 72 hours and they would be gone. Bye, right? And so oftentimes you don't always deal with the same patients. They would switch you around. So one day you're dealing with bay 1 to 10, or 1 to 5, or 1 to 6, and the next you'll be switched around to another bay, like maybe bay 20 to 30 or something that day. But dialysis patients, is hard to avoid them because they come they're a regular set of people, and they could be there for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. And if it's someone who is angry all the time, when you try to avoid him, they cause problem, they cause stress. How do you avoid it? how do you stay away from them? How do you appease them? And it was like you'd come into work and you would just be so stressed out. So what changed everything, because even while I was at dialysis and I enjoyed some aspects and I could see me going up and becoming more senior and getting more money, things changed. What started changing? Well, also one, it started from the mindset. So I started going back in art. I actually want to return back to creative. YouTube started becoming more on and popping, Instagram and everything. And also I thought, like, I'm doing all of this and I'm fatigued, physically I'm fatigued. Can I do 30 more years of it? Because at this time I was in my 30s, right? By the time I graduated 2017, I went into there maybe when I was 28 or something, and I started saying, and then like by the time I was there, I just turned 35 this year, so it was in my 30s basically. And I was like, can I, because retirement age in England for women is around 65, 67. Can I do another 30 more years of this? How much more can I do this, right? So my mind started already looking anyway for jobs outside of the NHS, or for a job in the NHS, but that wasn't so physically demanding and so mentally draining. I was like, child, you better start looking, because if you think you're going to last 30 years in this, you're not going to. So when I did the course, before I did the course at King's College, there was other issues that came up, and that was COVID. So COVID came around and changed up the game, like literally changed up everything completely. People were getting sick, nurses were getting sick on my unit. People were coming in with COVID, like nurses and staff and patients. And literally, because a lot of people, I never got COVID while I was working there, but a lot of people were taking off, so we were understaffed, and my body started getting extremely tired. And another two was the hospital changed up the soap. So when the hospital changed up the soap, it started to have an effect on my body. I don't know if you can see, I will put pictures up, but I will also show you. So the hospital changed the soap, made it stronger, I think put more alcohol in it, and then everywhere, because of COVID, every building you went to, every transport facility, everything, they kept saying, alcohol gel. And then at home I was getting paranoid. I used to alcohol gel wipe down everything. And literally my body did not like that. My hands did not like that. So if you can see here, you see this? This is all because of COVID. I never had this before. I've never had this in my life. This again, all happened because of COVID. I had it on here, but it's kind of healed, right? So look, my skin is fine. But you can still kind of see here. If you see, guys, look at this. This is dermatitis. It's not as bad as this hand, and even my palms have gotten better, but there was one point where my palms were tore up. I had cuts all over it, wounds all over it. This was red and raw. It's getting a little bit better since I've moved and left nursing, but like even my tattoo was like being eaten up. See, like, and it because of the constant use of the hand gel and the alcohol gel, like my hands became allergic and sensitive to even dishwashing liquid, to certain soaps, like my whole body. And another thing, before this happened, I was diagnosed with seborrheic dermatitis, right? But that used to flare up when I had stress. So I don't know if also the stress of the nursing job and then the soap led to this, and also the harsh water in England has very harsh water, led to this. So I was struggling at work. Every time I had to constantly wash my hands because I'm dealing in healthcare and it's COVID, and I would just get cuts and bruises, and no matter what, all the lotion, everything, and I would just be like itching all over the place. But what took me out the game was, so before I started doing the course at King's College, one day I went to go and deal with a patient who had COVID in a room. So I went in the room and He was coughing everywhere. He didn't want to wear his mask, and they gave us some field-made protection. I was like, I ain't trying to get COVID. So I opened the window, and when I opened the window, there was no sign. I promise you, no sign on the window. No one had told me the window was broken. I think one or two of the healthcare professionals or the nurses there knew, but they didn't go around and tell everyone. No one had said it in a meeting. I think the window had been reported, though. It had been reported to the estates. The admins had reported several times, but I only found out this after the incident happened, that it had been reported, and one or two people knew, but they failed to tell everyone or put a sign on the window. So I went to lift the window, and there was a thing at the side of the window that meant to hold it, because it's meant to stay halfway up on like these two I don't know, sticks or whatever you would call something in place. But literally the thing was broken. So when I went up, it just came back down. A heavy window came slamming back down on my hand. I had to scream to help, and I lifted it up. Someone came, and I was cursing all sorts of words. And then, you know why I was cursing? This patient, see what happened, and he's yelling at me to hurry up. Oh, he needs to come off the mat. Hurry up, hurry up. What am I doing? I said, well, they don't care about you. You could literally have dropped down dead in front of them, and all they care about is their own self. Anyway, regardless of that, I quickly went to take off the patient because it was late at night. It was the last patient. He's shouting at me, and he's one of them aggressive patients. He wants to go to sit in the front because he's waiting on his transport to go home, and I just wanted to quickly do. So I quickly, regardless of my finger being hurt, I put pressure on this man's finger, wrap up his thing and send him on his way. Then after everything done, I removed my gown, washed myself, and I saw there was a cut on my finger, like a little cut. And then I'm typing, right, to do the handover, and I showed two or three nurses, and they said, oh, you should either ice it. Some said ice it, go home, and then the other was like, maybe you should go A&E. But it's like 11:30, almost 12 o'clock. I don't want to go to A&E. So I was like, oh no. And I had a day off the next day. I was like, oh, I'll rest it and see how it is, right? But I'm not going to lie, it started swelling. It started swelling a little bit. And it was painful. Anyway, I went home and it died down. The swelling went down. But it was like after 2 or 3 days, I was carrying a heavy bag, and it must have activated the injury again, and it just went off. And then after that, I couldn't go to work for like a good couple of weeks. Anyway, I went on my placement for the course, and I did the placement, and I was successful until towards the end, because the placement was shadowing people. I didn't really have to do much. It was on the last placement. Now, even the doctor told me, don't lift anything heavy, don't do anything heavy or whatever. It was on my last placement that and I was in a ward or whatever that dealt with people who had surgery post-transplant. And I literally removed a CVC line and was putting pressure on the thing. But this had been like about maybe 2 months after the incident happened, almost 3 months. So I thought it was fine, right? I didn't have swelling or whatever. But lo and behold, the thing went up. It went swollen again. When I went home after that, my hand was swollen. I was in severe pain. And then after that, it led to 6 months of me being out of work. In and out of work, most times out of work. During those 6 months, I started seeking the Lord, because I literally was going crazy. I started having anxiety attacks. I was like, what is this life that I'm living? Not only have itching on my hand from this, but I have pain in my hand. And I was like being dragged from left, right and center. Don't know what was happening. Wasn't really receiving enough care. So I seek the Lord. I was like, God, is this what you want for me? And I started applying for other jobs, but I couldn't get other jobs. I started applying for jobs outside of the NHS, because I was just like, I've had enough. And that's when God started orchestrating everything. basically. He started orchestrating everything. He started like saying to me, like, he started putting in my mind that I want to do jobs where I travel the world. Why don't you do something that you really want to do something you really love, do something you're passionate. You're 35, you're single, you have no kids. Go for it, Francine. Believe in yourself, right? Why are you stuck in a tiny cramped up apartment with mold, with you're overweight, and you are tired, exhausted when you go to work? These patients don't have respect for you. Why are you doing it? And when I went to church, it's like God would give me confirmations, right? So he would say things like, I remember one time my pastor said, at the end of the year, God is going to write you a check, and the check, you're going to have capacity, and that check is going to allow you to be able to fulfill your dreams, to execute the vision that God has for you, the plan. Why some of you leave that job, you're stuck in a job where people are disrespecting you, where they curse you and yell at you. Why would you want to stay at somewhere where they're disrespectful? And that was God speaking to me, because before that people had said, oh, one or two people found out my hand thing, and I said, especially one person that I had worked with in my first year of, when I did the underward, that first year, one of the managers, I saw him when I was working at another unit when I was 6. I was working at this unit that was only computer, so you only did computer based things to help with my hand, and he was there for another illness, right? And basically he said to me, look, I used to work for the trade union of nurses. Why don't you sue them? Why don't you do it? So that is what I did.